We can hire 4 junior engineers for what we pay you, he sneered during my termination meeting. Just business, nothing personal. I'm James Wilson, age 54, lead systems architect at Horizon Properties for the past 17 years. I created their entire IT infrastructure from the ground up, designed every system upgrade, maintained operations so flawlessly that management forgot how crucial I was. Until they decided my salary was too high. Across from me sat Daniel Carter, the freshly hired CTO who'd only joined 5 months earlier. At 41, with his designer frames and Harvard MBA, he'd been recruited to streamline operations, which clearly meant axing senior staff first. The severance package is quite competitive, Sarah from HR said as she pushed a folder toward me. 4 months' salary plus your accumulated vacation pay. I nodded, took the documents, and simply said, "Thanks." That's all? Daniel seemed almost let down. Perhaps he'd hoped I'd make a scene or threaten to sue. Something juicy to report to the board about my unprofessional conduct. What would you prefer me to say? Most people have questions, at least. I shrugged. Seems clear enough. Daniel exchanged puzzled looks with Sarah, both thrown by my composure. What they failed to grasp was that I wasn't composed. I was finished. There's a world of difference. We'd value your assistance during the transition, Daniel pressed on. The new team will need system architecture guidance. Maybe a short-term consulting contract. I'll consider it, I lied. We shook hands. I packed my desk without protest. 17 years of work condensed into a single cardboard carton. I gave silent nods to colleagues who avoided eye contact, each fearing they might be next. As I walked to my car, my phone vibrated. A message from Michael, the database specialist I'd recruited 11 years back. "This is insane, James. The team's in chaos." I didn't reply. At home, sipping bourbon on my deck overlooking Lake Michigan, I watched the sunset turn the water bronze. My wife Laura rested a hand on my shoulder. "What now?" she asked. "Something'll come up." What Daniel never realized, never cared to learn, was that I hadn't simply implemented their systems. I'd personally programmed critical components with almost no documentation, since management consistently denied budget for proper technical writers. Only I truly grasped the layered redundancies, the concealed security protocols, the complex web of network architecture. And I had no intention of sharing that knowledge now. I first joined Horizon Properties when it was still Lakeside Management. Back then, it was just a small property management company with 4 residential buildings and about 12 staff members. Their entire tech setup comprised 2 desktop PCs, a fax machine, and a sluggish dial-up connection. The founder, Richard Lakeside, poached me from a consulting project in Chicago. "We're growing," he told me. "Need someone to build us something robust." Over 17 years, I transformed that primitive system into a fully integrated property management platform, handling everything from tenant screening and lease processing to maintenance ticketing and rent payments across 62 properties in 4 states. I constructed it gradually, tweaking and enhancing it as the business evolved. When Richard retired 4 years back, his son Jason sold the firm to an investment group that rebranded it as Horizon Properties. They retained me, impressed with my work. But shifts began occurring. New leadership, different objectives. Short-term quarterly goals started trumping sustainable growth. The red flags appeared slowly. First, they declined my request for a documentation team. "Not in the budget," they claimed. "We'll revisit next quarter." That quarter never arrived. Then came the consultants. Bright-eyed MBAs preaching about property management disruption and cloud migration. They'd nod blankly through my system architecture briefings, then propose generic solutions incompatible with our customized framework. I repeatedly objected, demonstrating why their ideas would fail, highlighting the unique code underpinning our operations. Eventually, they excluded me from strategy sessions. Laura spotted the pattern first. "They're sidelining you," she remarked during dinner one evening. "You should brace yourself." I dismissed her concerns. "They rely on me. No one else comprehends how everything interconnects." "That might be precisely why," she countered. 5 months ago, they brought in Daniel as the new director. With a background in fintech software, he immediately advocated for system standardization and legacy modernization. He recruited 3 recent graduates to trail me, peppering me with questions about the infrastructure. I answered patiently, but recognized their limited understanding. How could they possibly grasp it? I'd spent years developing these systems, mastering their interdependencies, engineering fail-safes that maintained seamless operations during crises. Last Thursday, Daniel swung by my workspace. "Quick chat tomorrow morning," he mentioned offhandedly. "Quarterly monitoring, damn it. I should have known better." The first bell rang 13 days after I was shown the door. I was in my home office, polishing my resume, when my phone lit up. Daniel Carter. I sent it straight to voicemail. "James, it's Daniel. We're experiencing complications with the tenant portal. The junior team's stuck. They can't make sense of your codebase. Could you call us back? Just a quick consult." I deleted the message and returned to my resume. 3 more calls followed that afternoon, each voicemail more frantic than the last. By dusk, Michael texted, "System crash. Maintenance queue frozen. Daniel is sweating through his dress shirt." Next morning, Sarah from HR rang. "James, hope you're well. We'd like to formalize a consulting agreement. Temporary assistance with current system challenges. Compensation would be exceptionally competitive." I finally picked up. Define competitive. $600 hourly, 4-hour minimum per engagement. I'll consider it. At the kitchen table, I watched lake ripples while Laura set down coffee. "What's your play?" Watching them discover my actual market value. The calls escalated over the next 72 hours. Daniel, Sarah, even Jason Lakeside, still clinging to his board seat. The tenant portal had flatlined. Maintenance tickets piled up. Payment processing crashed, stranding thousands of residents. I let every call die. On day 4, an email arrived from Summit Systems, Horizon's fastest-growing competitor. Fewer properties, but aggressive expansion. The sender, David Summit, their director. "James, word travels. We've long respected your work. Interested in discussing an infrastructure overhaul. Our entire platform needs your expertise." I scheduled a meeting for tomorrow. That evening, as Laura chopped vegetables, the doorbell chimed. On my porch stood Daniel Carter, Armani glasses crooked, custom suit creased, a sheen of panic sweat on his forehead. "James, we need to talk. The entire system just collapsed." "Everything's down. The team's clueless. Can't diagnose it, let alone fix it." I stayed leaning in the doorway. "Sounds critical." "It is. We need you back." Daniel's tie was loose, his usually perfect hair disheveled. The board approved an emergency consulting rate, $1,000 an hour. Name your terms. I thought about the cardboard box gathering dust in my garage. 17 years of my career reduced to office trinkets. Thought about his smirk. Nothing personal, just cost-cutting. Thought about the documentation team they'd always refused to fund. "Sorry to hear that," I said evenly, "but I've got an interview tomorrow." Something will turn up, just as I'd predicted. I shut the door on his gaping expression and returned to dinner prep. For the first time since they'd fired me, I felt calm. Not smug, not vindictive, just certain. For the first time since I was fired, I felt a sense of calm enveloping me. The meeting with David Summit exceeded expectations. We chose a quiet cafe in downtown Milwaukee, neutral territory. "I've studied your work for years," David said, tapping his spoon against his coffee cup. "That property management platform you engineered at Horizon, industry gold standard. Nobody's come close. Appreciate that. It didn't happen overnight." Exactly my point. He leaned forward. "We want to build something comparable, but smarter. Need someone who grasps the architecture, integration protocols, security matrices. Someone who can deliver a system that actually works." "I'm listening." David grinned. "Good. Because I'm offering you the role of Chief Systems Architect. Full benefits, equity, and a base salary 40% above your Horizon package." It was more than fair. Suspiciously so. "Why me?" I asked. "Plenty of younger, cheaper talent out there?" He barked a laugh. "Christ, you sound like your ex-CEO. We tried that. Hired 3 Stanford whiz kids. Built us a shiny system that crashes if 50 users log in simultaneously." His smile faded. "We don't want cheapness. We want reliability." I signed the offer next morning. Meanwhile, Horizon's meltdown went critical. Michael kept me in the loop with sporadic messages. They'd managed to patch together parts of the system, but core functionality remained broken. They'd hired a high-priced consulting firm specializing in antiquated system resuscitation. A week into my new role at Summit, Daniel called again. "James, I'm begging you. This is critical. We've lost 3 months of payment records. Tenants are furious about billing errors. The consultants say they need your insight on the database architecture." I nearly ignored it, but something made me answer. "Daniel, I'm under contract now, exclusive. There's nothing I can do. We'll quadruple your current rate. Just 2 days of your time. It's not about the money." "Then what? Revenge? You getting some sick satisfaction from this?" I took a measured breath before responding. "No, Daniel. But you made a calculated decision that my expertise wasn't worth the price tag. Now you're seeing the real cost. The board's willing to reinstate you. The salary is in full, along with the bonus." For half a second, I felt that old pull. Then it vanished. Returning would change nothing. The same executives who deemed me replaceable would just wait for the next budget slash. "Appreciate the offer, but I've given my word to Summit." Daniel's tone turned icy. "You realize there could be legal repercussions if we find you deliberately obfuscated system maintenance? IP violations." There it was, the expected threat. "The system is precisely as you left it," I countered, after consistently rejecting my documentation requests. "Every byte of code is Horizon property, per my contract. I contributed only experience with me. But by all means, have your attorneys call mine." I ended the call, hands trembling slightly. Not from nerves, but from fury I'd suppressed until now. The implication I'd sabotaged them was the ultimate insult. At Summit, I was rebuilding properly. Documented systems, trained engineers, fail-safes to prevent Horizon-style disasters. No looking back. And certainly no lifelines. Some truths only sink in through painful experience. 5 weeks into my role at Summit Systems, an unexpected guest appeared in my office doorway. Michael, my former database specialist, shifted uncomfortably, clutching a laptop bag. "Got time for lunch?" At a corner table in a nearby deli, Michael laid out Horizon's unfolding disaster between bites of his Reuben. "It's worse than anyone realizes," he muttered, leaning in despite the lunch rush's din. "They've lost 3 years of historical records. The backup arrays are failing verification. Consultants say they might need to rebuild everything from the ground up." I'd expected this. Those backup protocols had deliberate redundancies and security checks. Miss one authentication layer, and the system would deliberately fail rather than risk exposing tenant data. Michael wiped his hands. "There's more. While helping the consultants trace payment processing errors, I uncovered something." He flipped open his laptop. "Daniel had been plotting your termination for months. Board meeting notes show he pitched replacing legacy personnel with you as priority one." The emails on screen revealed Daniel's precise arguments. "Wilson's bespoke architecture creates artificial dependencies. We can implement commercial solutions at 60% cost within 2 quarters. Projected annual savings, $2.2 million. One line burned into my vision. "His systems aren't complex. They're convoluted by design to ensure job security." Michael scrolled further. "The private equity owners are prepping Horizon for sale. Daniel was hired specifically to slash costs and inflate profit pre-acquisition." Suddenly, every baffling decision made sense. The rushed standardization, the blocked documentation requests, the targeting of senior salaries. The conversation was not about improving the company, but solely about cosmetic transformation for the sake of a quick sale. "Why show me this?" Michael snapped the laptop shut. "Because I resigned yesterday, along with half the IT team. Consultants estimate an 8-month recovery timeline." He hesitated. "And Northfield Properties?" "They're preparing exit paperwork. That's 46% of Horizon's revenue. Losing Northfield would be catastrophic, especially with the pending sale." "What's your next move?" I asked. Michael cracked a smile. "Actually, I was hoping Summit might need a database architect." That afternoon, I discussed hiring Michael with David. He agreed without hesitation. We were assembling a team, people who valued building systems to last. That evening, Daniel called again. The arrogance in his voice had evaporated. "James, I'm begging you. Northfield's about to walk. The board's tearing me apart. We need—" "Sorry, Daniel, I can't help you." "Name your price, anything." "It's not about money. It's about respecting expertise. Understanding what it takes to construction things properly." A long silence. "You planned this," he finally said. "You knew exactly how it would collapse." I just understood my systems and what happens when you ignore their requirements." I hung up feeling neither vindictive nor remorseful, just the quiet understanding that some truths must be learned through disaster. The opportunity arrived sooner than anticipated. 8 weeks into my Summit tenure, David summoned me. "Just spoke with Robert Northfield," he said. "They're terminating with Horizon next month. Want to know if we can take their portfolio." Northfield managed over 20,000 units across the Northeast. Taking them would triple our capacity. "We're not equipped for that scale," I admitted. "The new system's only 60% complete." David steepled his fingers. "What would make us ready?" I calculated quickly. 6 senior engineers, upgraded server clusters, and 10 weeks minimum. Even then, it's risky. "Robert's panicking. Horizon's meltdown is damaging his tenant relations. He's offering 14 weeks and covering our infrastructure costs." This was the inflection point. Succeed, and we dominate the market. Fail, and we'd take Northfield down with us. "Let me design the framework," I said. "I'll have a proposal by morning." I worked through the night. System schematics, data transfer protocols, scaling solutions. By dawn, I had plan. Aggressive but realistic. A phased integration plan that would migrate Northfield's properties systematically to minimize chaos. When I showed the blueprint to David, he scrutinized every detail. "This works," he concluded. "But you've added a 4-week documentation window. That pushes our deadline." "Non-negotiable," I said. That's where Horizon collapsed. We document every process from minute one, train every team member, eliminate all single points of failure. David exhaled. "Your call. Let's proceed." The following months were relentless. We onboarded 6 new engineers, 3 from Horizon's exodus. Michael developed a data conversion engine that could translate Horizon's legacy databases into our new structure. I architected modular components that could expand with Northfield's portfolio. Midway through, an email arrived from Jason Lakeside, the founder's son still on Horizon's board. "James. The board regrets how this unfolded. We were misled about the consequences of your departure. Daniel has been terminated as CTO. Northfield's exit will devastate us. If you ever consider returning, we'd welcome you." I deleted it. By week 10 of our 14-week schedule, we prepared for the first wave. The first stage will be the migration process of the smallest region, Northfield, located in western Wisconsin and numbering only about 4,000 inhabitants. The evening before rollout, David summoned me. A silver-haired man stood at the window, Robert Northfield in person. "So, you're the architect?" He gripped my hand firmly. "David claims you've built something that won't crumble when we expand. That's the objective. I understand you came from Horizon." I nodded cautiously. "They're sinking," Robert continued. "Their investors are desperate to sell, but with their system in shambles and our departure..." He glanced at David. "There's one serious bidder." "Let me guess," I said. "Summit Systems," David confirmed, "at 40 cents on the dollar compared to last year's valuation." I studied both men, connecting the dots. "If that happens," Jeffrey added, "you'll need a specialist who understands both areas at Once Systems to oversee the merger." Robert continued, "Someone who can extract what still works from Horizon's tech while migrating to your new platform." "Are you suggesting I'd lead this?" I clarified. David nodded. "Only if we acquire them, and only if you're comfortable." I considered the poetic justice. The infrastructure I'd designed, the teams I'd mentored, the company that had thrown me away, now potentially mine to rebuild. "I'll do it," I said after a pause. "On one condition, we do it properly. Complete documentation, thorough training, no compromises." "Agreed," David said. "We've seen what shortcuts cost." Walking back to my desk, I felt no gloating satisfaction. Just the quiet assurance that quality work ultimately proves its worth. 5 months later, I stood in the former Horizon headquarters lobby. The sign now read, "Summit Property Solutions." The acquisition had closed at 20% of Horizon's pre-crisis valuation. David and I toured the offices, greeting remaining staff. Some avoided eye contact. Others seemed genuinely relieved. A handful of my former colleagues exchanged knowing glances. Daniel and his executive team were gone. Jason Lakeside remained as a transition consultant for legacy accounts. Outside the server room, I stopped. Through the window, I saw the racks I'd configured years ago, the familiar pulse of network activity. "Do you want to see your old place of work?" David asked. "That's not necessary," I said. "We'll replace everything anyway." In the conference room, assembled staff waited for announcements. David introduced me as Chief Integration Architect. "Many of you know James," he said. "He built the systems that sustain this company for 17 years. Now he'll merge our technologies into something superior to either." Scanning the room, familiar faces mixed with new hires, I felt no urge to gloat. What would be the gain? Instead, I outlined the transition, timelines, training, and my ironclad promise that no one would be sacrificed to budget cuts. The unspoken irony hung palpably in the air. 12 months after the acquisition, Summit Property Solutions stood as the Midwest's dominant property management firm. The transition was finished, every building now operating on my redesigned platform. Documented thoroughly, staffed competently, running flawlessly. On a golden October morning, I drove to headquarters for my final meeting with David. The lakeside maples burned crimson in the autumn light. A perfect setting to close this story. "The board greenlit your initiative," David said before I'd fully sat down. "The Technical Excellence Academy launches next quarter. You'll have complete control over curriculum and faculty." This had been my price for staying post-merger. Not a promotion or bonus, but a training institute, forging engineers who understood enduring systems, not just quick code. "I appreciate that," I said. "No, we appreciate you," David countered. "What you've created here, the technology, yes, but more importantly, the culture, the documentation standards, the knowledge transfer, the refusal to cut corners." That afternoon, I boxed my integration office belongings. No hurried exit this time. A deliberate shift to my new mission. As I sorted files, Jason Lakeside appeared in the doorway. "Got time?" We strolled to the courtyard. "My father asks about you," he said. "Retired in Arizona now, but still follows industry news. He's pleased you're back, in a way." "How's Richard?" "Well, yes. Golf was a frequent activity," Jason said after a short pause. "As he often said, the biggest omission of the company was precisely your departure." He wasn't wrong. "I learned something through this," Jason continued. "Real value often goes unseen until it's missing." Driving home along the shore, I pondered value of expertise, of meticulous work, of building to endure, of systems that outlive quarterly reports and the architects who create them. I'd never wanted revenge, just to build properly. And in doing so, I'd constructed the most eloquent rebuttal possible. Not with words, but with working systems and trained teams. Sometimes, the strongest answer to being underestimated is simply to demonstrate your worth elsewhere. Let the results become more eloquent than any words.